I've got a wee small problem with in the wee small hours. And it's not what you're thinking.
Your two favorite guys, Ryan and Steve from the Vinyl Record Mission.
Steve here from the Vinyl Record Mission, and today I'm going to talk about this newly released Frank Sinatra, In the Wee Small Hours, a torch song, classic, iconic record of Frank Sinatra's and as a whole of that era. And first of all, I'd like to thank Kevin Gray and Joe Harley for bringing a reissue back that needed to be reissued. And the reason for that is that good luck finding, an original copy of this record in playable condition, really. And if you're lucky enough to have one of those copies, like I am, you can actually have something to compare to. And this is my original right here, which is actually stone mint. As you can see, it was from a non-smoking home, and it is the W1. Yes, there's the W581 right there. And I even have the beautiful gray label to prove it, and it is in stunning condition. Believe me, I am so lucky to have this record. It's one of my cherished pieces, and it even has the original inner sleeve that's still in immaculate condition. So yes, I was excited when I heard that they were going to do this reissue, and it's about time that they start looking at the accessibility of records before they decide to reissue them again and again and again. And I guess you can call this an audiophile pressing, considering that, Kevin Gray did all this mastering at Coherent Audio, and he is definitely a master of his trade, and I always trust that he's going to do right by the recording. And I was very pleasantly surprised at how beautiful the record sounds, and I did compare it to my original, and I'll just say this. I would gladly pay $100+ for an original mint condition copy of this album before I would buy a Tone Poet at whatever, $40, or after you pay for shipping and everything. I think it comes to like $50 or something like that. But it is better than not having an original that sounds as great as it does. I didn't bother looking into seeing what else or who else reissued this album over the course of the last, 60 years or so. But I will say that I listened very closely, and when I first put on the Kevin Gray cut, I noticed that Frank Sinatra was like really coming out hot. And then I very quickly noticed that the orchestra seemed to be a little thin sounding and distant. At times, Frank's voice during certain passages completely lost the sound of Nelson Riddle and his orchestra in the background. I was a little disappointed when I heard that. However, it's few and far between where that does happen, but you can just tell the difference when you go back and forth between the original and the newly released Tone Poet. Frank's voice is just so rich and thick, and almost like he's on steroids. And it's just comes in pretty hot sometimes, and it's almost it's in your face, kind of disturbing. To me, I was like taken aback a couple of times, and his voice was just like so loud, and I was like waiting. This music is so melancholy and so melodic that the vocal follows the melody of the orchestra, vice versa, many times to the point where it sounds like there's like harmony going on there, and at times the harmony and the melody of the orchestra was lost by Frank's overpowering voice. So I don't know if they moved him up a couple steps or what, but on my original, it is not that hot at all. It is so blended and balanced beautifully, where you can constantly hear what Nelson's doing in the background with his orchestra, and Frank Sinatra is just complementing that, and vice versa. So I will say on the track, you can really notice it on Can't We Just Be Friends? That Can't We Be Friends, which is a beautiful song, by the way. You can really hear his voice just coming out of the speakers. Like, yeah, he sounds like he's in a room, but he also sounds like he's right up in your face, which, I mean, respect my personal space, dude. I know you're Frank Sinatra, but my mom might not mind you being that close, but I'm different. The classic In the Wee Small Hours is beautiful. And that's where I first noticed that the orchestration was a little bit thin and seemed like it was in the distance because Frank Sinatra was so upfront. And then after that, I just continued to listen to the record and just felt the same way the whole time through, that Frank's voice was just kind of just annoyingly too loud for me on my system. And again, everybody's systems are different, and that's something that I can honestly say might change how this sounds. But I did listen to a couple of other reviews, and I heard some people mention that Frank's voice was so present and so upfront that it was a noticeable difference to them, and they didn't even have an original to compare it to. Mine is in pristine condition, and you can really just hear this. I just want to say this continuity with the orchestra and Frank's vocals. I mean, he still sounds like he's in the room. He's just, right where he should be. And the orchestra is right there with him. And so that's one of the things that I noticed about this pressing in my living room and on my stereo system. And I have a pretty good quality stereo system. I've got a nice power amplifier and a phono stage and passive volume control. Now I've upgraded my system a little bit. I've got a 540 Microline Audio-Technica cartridge on my turntable now, and so I really feel like I was getting a true example of the sound stage and the recording. So those are just, my personal feelings about the record. Am I happy that I bought it? Absolutely. Would I recommend that you buy it? Of course. I mean, this is definitely a must-have in anybody's collection who likes jazz and or torch songs. And then you've got this, which is something that I don't have in my original, and this is this beautiful Stoughton jacket gatefold cover with amazing pictures of Frank and some of the band members there, and all the credits and a little bit of some liner notes in there that are by looks like Rita Kirwan from Music Views in May of 1955. Those are her liner notes. And then it's got some more interesting notes on the back there. Super high gloss. Just a really high quality jacket. And really very nice and beautifully collectible. And I will say this, another kind of disappointing thing is that, because I'm so anal about condition, I pulled it out and I'm like, come on, you guys. Look at the cracks on the spindle hole there. You see those? Yeah. Look at that. That's my original. Look at the spindle hole on that. Whoever had this never even put a spindle mark on the thing. I mean, it's in beautiful condition. And I don't know why the ones from RTI came out like that, but, so be it. I would trade for his voice to be a few steps back over having this little crack on the label any day. So, will I listen to it? Yeah, I'll listen to it for sure. I just, I don't know if that's what I'll put on when, I want to really impress somebody with some Frank Sinatra, unfortunately. So, I hate to say it, it was a little bit disappointing for me, but I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that have listened to it and fallen in love with it, because it still is really very beautiful, and it just doesn't do what I expected it to do. If they just would have left him right where he was, I think it would have been a masterpiece. And so that's just my thoughts and feelings. Moving forward, hopefully you can experience it for yourself. I would take a chance on this record all day long and recommend that if you do like Frank Sinatra and you don't have, like I said, a really clean copy of an original, then this is definitely the next best thing. Alrighty, well, thanks again for joining me on this episode of the Vinyl Record Mission. Until next time, take care.
If you haven't, make sure you hit like and subscribe to the Vinyl Record Mission, so that way you don't miss out on any future content. More videos coming your way.